Today in San Cabrillo Zoo, we are building for probably one of the most unique animals to ever come to Planet Zoo, the platypus. Many people know that the platypus is only held in one zoo in the United States, and that is the San Diego Safari Park. Since my zoo is based off of both the San Diego Zoo and Safari Park, I figured, why not give my own take on their habitat and bring it to Planet Zoo? So without further ado, welcome everyone back to San Cabrillo Zoo. My friends, I am so excited to be back in San Cabrillo Zoo after such a long time of not really doing anything. Yeah, our last habitat was for the marsupial kind of habitat. So we had our red kangaroo, we had our red-necked wallaby, and we had an emu in there as well. And we really haven't been doing anything else besides that. So I really just wanted to round out our Australian section with our platypus house. So welcome everyone, my name is Leaf. It's so great that you guys are able to join me today as we get started on this lovely little habitat. So over here, what I am working on right now is kind of like this rock wall that's supposed to go like around the platypus house itself. I really do love this technique I've kind of developed. It's essentially using the cladding pieces as a way to create this kind of frame for the rest of the habitat. I don't know, I just really enjoy making these cliff faces like this. I've only been doing it in our little Australian walkabout series, so if you guys want to go back to where we started with the Tasmanian devil habitat, you guys can go check that out and see how I kind of started off doing that kind of stuff. But you can see I am working very tirelessly on making it look as realistic as possible. So that combines a whole different wide variety of different pieces in here. So I'm using those faux rock pebbles, and I'm also using the stalactite rocks. Really awesome mix right there, and I think I could even take it a little bit of a step further and use some of the roots in here as well, just for a little bit of extra theming. Platypuses, or platypi, however you do want to say it, they live in billabongs. They also live in just general freshwater areas, but billabongs are really cool. Not only is it a really fun word to say, but billabongs develop when a river starts to kind of like make an S-bend or something, and then eventually the water finds the path of least resistance, carries it on through like the little curve, and then it cancels out that part of the curve so that it becomes its own little lake, kind of like looking like a little boomerang kind of thing. That's essentially some of the habitats that these platypus do live in. So I kind of wanted to make the Billabong house. Not only is it named after the natural landmark, but it's also named after my good friend G-Rex's zoo. Billabong Discovery Center, really awesome Planet Zoo creator right there. Really just the wide variety of theming that he has is something that I wanted to bring to my game as well. So you can see I am using a little bit of funky pieces in here. I really wanted to make this look as realistic as possible, so that involved me getting involved with Freebuild. I know not everyone out there does like mods, but it's just something that I need for my own Planet Zoo experience. And I would not be able to build any of this if it weren't for Freebuild. Especially this little roofing piece right here. I really wanted this beautiful dome that opens up directly to sunlight and create this lovely atrium for this building. And again, I couldn't do it without Freebuild. I couldn't get these beautiful triangular pieces. These will be on the workshop, at least this big, I don't know what you would call it. I guess skylight. The skylight will be on the workshop for all of you guys to use. You won't need Freebuild to place it. That is something I want to make sure that everyone knows. So that will be part of the kind of like San Cabrillo Zoo Australian section, quote unquote, blueprint set. So that's going to be really fun. Working in here, this was a really fun challenge. I am not really the best at building interiors, but I am super thrilled with how well this habitat itself came out. So you can see I made my habitat a lot bigger than what I normally would want it to look like. That way I could place down as many more pieces as I would need to, as a way to kind of say, okay, here's the main shape of the habitat. Now let's work on the details. So you can see I wanted this little section over here to be a waterfall that led into the bottom part of the exhibit. And I'm really happy with how well that all kind of shaped up. You're kind of walking through like a really, really dark room, and you could hear like the water rushing down. It's really, really awesome. And plus, what I always love to do is put my animals in my habitat before I even build my habitat. I know it's not really the best thing for franchise players to do, at least, but it really does help me as a sandbox player. You could even do it in franchise mode if you pause your game at least, but it really does help me as a Planet Zoo, like, I don't know, sandbox creator. Really help to understand the sense of scale inside my exhibits. With the animals actually in there, it helps me determine how big I need like their shelter openings to be. It really helps me determine how much land area I need to give them. Platypus don't really need a whole lot of land area, but it really is just so cool just to watch them kind of flop around on land. That is really it in terms of like my little tips for today. What I'm also doing back here is taking a very modular look at this habitat. And essentially what I'm doing, I'm placing these big plaster pieces down as a way to help me gauge what I want out of this habitat. I know a lot of people have been involved in AI as of late, while I personally don't really subscribe to the idea of, you know, AI replicating stuff. I do like to use some motifs from AI, and some of that is doing a general kind of layout for a habitat, and then filling it in with all the details later down the line once I know exactly how I want it to look. And that's kind of what I did over here. So you can see I'm working tirelessly to get this habitat to look nice on the inside as well. Again, interiors really aren't my strong suit, so it is a little bit of a challenge for me to be working in here, but I think I was able to manage it relatively well. You can see I'm using these big plaster pieces as a way to kind of ground myself and really help to keep the habitat within its own barriers. I don't know, I really do like that. What I also did over here was create this little jut out section underwater, just so we could have a little bit of an area for aquatic plants to grow. I'm not really sure if they use real plants in the San Diego Zoo platypus habitat itself, but I do know they have blue crayfish in there, which I think is pretty cool. But we don't have blue crayfish in Planet Zoo, so really, what can I do? Finally, using these Oceania lava rocks, these are incredible. Like, these are perfect for what I wanted. Instead of going for more realistic colors inside of the habitat, I wanted to think of what this habitat would look like in the dark. And if you put bright colors in Planet Zoo in the dark, it's still going to be bright colors regardless. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to try my best to try and implement darker colors in here as much as possible and let the light come through via plants and via external lighting. You'll see that in a little bit. But what I really wanted to start on over here was adding these beautiful rock formations in here. And again, we only have 2 good lava rock pieces for this, but they are really good. That big smooth one is really awesome for getting like a general shape, and the tiny rigid one, you can see it right there, is really awesome for those finer details that you can never really get with any of the other rocks. My real only complaint about all of this is that they aren't flexi-color, which is like, you know, it's fine for my purposes right here, but what if I want to bring these into like a desert habitat? There really aren't too many black deserts out there, so it's a little bit of a shame when it comes to that, but regardless, you can see I'm having a whole lot of fun with it. Now you can see over here, I'm also working on the little atrium section as well. Very happy with how well this turned out. So essentially, it's kind of just like a little education area with a few terrariums. You could actually see relatively soon how I made those terrariums. They're a little bit funky. They're not your typical exhibit boxes. But I don't know, I just really love how well it turned out. Using this rustic stone in here, I believe that one was from the Europe pack or the Twilight pack. But I really did love the look of it, but I think we changed the color of it later down the line just to help fit the vibe a bit more. I changed it to like this really cool kind of like tropical green color, but then I figured that's a little bit too playful for my style. Like, I tend to think of like myself in the middle of the spectrum of the Planet Zoo players. I think of Caesar as like that hyper realistic, you know, a lot of your greens and earth tones. I think of like some other players like Rudy as a very bombastic color scheme kind of guy. I like to stay in the middle of that. I like to keep my realism, but I also like to have a little bit of fun with it. So it's just a really, really fun mix in here that I'm really trying to balance, but I think I was able to do it relatively well. My favorite part in this habitat is what I'm doing right here. So if you've ever been to the San Diego Zoo and Safari Park, you will know that there is netting above where you're walking in the platypus habitat. And I thought, you know what? I have not seen anyone use these for that purpose. So what I'm using in here are the tetrastigma vines and normal ivy and covering the netting with all of that in here to create this really cool skylight effect that shines right through. And from there, I'm going against like kind of the corners of that netting and lining up exactly where I want stuff to be. I don't know. I really, really do like that. It's just turned out so freaking fun. And I don't know, I just really like it, guys. So that's essentially what I'm working on right over there. And I kind of align all these beams across. It looks insane once you're actually in here. You'll see in the cinematics. But it was a really, really fun challenge to try and work on this very unique interior of something that I have never done before. I still need to do some work on the interiors of like the gift shops in here. I also use like these little netting pieces in here just for a little bit of extra color. I really do love the color scheme I have going on in our Australian area now. It's very much like your orange and teals, very much Prairie the Platypus themed, I hate to say, but it looks so good, you guys. Also, wanted to add a little bit more of these lava rocks over here as a way to kind of cap the habitat. Since it is completely indoors to an extent, we'll talk a little bit about that later. I really did want to make sure that, you know, we cover our bases as we say it. And yeah, that's really it. Also want to change out the colors of these lights in here. So I'm using these beautiful kind of like Christmas lights in here. Not really Christmas themed, but I really do love the effect that it has in here. So I have kind of like orange and red on the outside to help it feel nice and warm once you're in here, but blues inside the habitat to make it really stick out that it's a nocturnal habitat. Really do love the effects of that when it all comes together in perfect harmony. Really awesome stuff. I also add a lot more rocks inside the habitat, really trying to decorate these walls as best as I can. I think eventually I will pop back in here and do a little bit more extra decorating just to help this area stand out a lot more. But I think for the time being, I'm really, really satisfied with how well these rock walls did turn out. And it really does feel like a really cool cave, kind of like really cool riverbed kind of ecosystem. Really cool stuff. Try keeping count of how many times I say really cool. I know some people bring it up before, but hey, it's just my anxiety coming out. Hey. Adding a whole bunch of other faux rocks in here as well, just to help break up the habitat a bit more. I am really a huge fan of how well that's starting to look. Just combining all these different rocks in here, just helping the area come together so nicely and really help it shine as best as it can. I don't know. It's just really awesome. I tried putting some more like stuff on top there, but it really wasn't shining through. Adding a whole bunch of different plants out to the front of this habitat as well. Well, not really the habitat, but the building itself. I really wasn't so happy with how boring it was looking on the outside, but adding bamboo is such an awesome way to bring a whole new level of theming to your zoo, because it really is, and say it with me folks, if you guys are new here, I will say this constantly, but bamboo is just a really effective way of creating cheap theming in your zoo. Economic theming, don't even say cheap. Bamboo is beautiful. It doesn't deserve to be cheap. But yeah, it's just a really awesome way to bring in a lot more better looks to your zoo. Adding some more Oceania netting in here as well, just help cap up that area, make sure that the roof does not look too boring. And then I actually got started on the water decorations of this habitat, adding some of this leaf litter that we got in the tropical pack, adding some mulch pieces. And I think I also do add some like logs, some branches in the water too. One of my favorite memories of my California trip was actually being able to watch the platypus for like a good 30 minutes. If you guys ask Remnant, he was there. I was watching that damn thing for a good 30 minutes. Because when else am I going to see one, you know? And just watching it interact with like the underwater world that it had at its disposal. So cool. What I'm also doing over here is adding a bit of a thatched roof to this little atrium area. This atrium, I can't get over it. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful centerpiece of this little Australian section. It's not really anything you will see from above, but it definitely is something that you will see once you're actually inside of it. And I also wanted to add a very unique entrance to the other side as well. So I'm going in with the flexi color thatch. Oh my gosh, thank you Frontier, thank you Planet Zoo team. Really love the fact that flexi color thatch is a thing now. Really helps the habitat really stand out now. So huge thank you guys for that. But I'm also adding this little entrance for the platypus habitat as well. Really just wanted to be nice and simple, help it feel like it's a little bit of a tropical kind of vibe. And it really sticks out from the rest of the Australian section. A lot of the Australian section itself is very industrial. That is something that just like every single Australian section is. But I really wanted this to feel a lot more natural than anything else. So I have like all these wood patterns in here. I have like all these Oceania fences in here. Really helps it feel so cozy, and it helps it feel just a little bit more warm than the rest of the habitats in here. Really do enjoy what I did in here. Trying to think of everything else that I did in here, but unfortunately, a lot of the smaller, finer details that you'll see in the cinematics were done off camera. I wish I had the patience to do stuff on camera, but when you're building interiors from like the outside in, it gets very tight, and a lot of the cinematics will make you vomit. I'm not kidding. Like, the amount of times I'm flying through these habitats, it's nauseating. It is like absolutely nauseating, even if you're playing it at normal speed. It's just sickening to see just like your camera bouncing around all over the place. It's absurd. So I'm not showing you guys that part. I do a whole bunch of other stuff in here as well. Like, you know, I do a whole lot more curbing. I do a whole lot more other stuff. Just helping the area really feel concise with each other. I really do love it because of that. Also adding this little wooden kind of like frame over here. This is where this atrium really does stand out because I add all of these pieces of wood. If you guys are having issues with detailing, just add more wood. It's insane just the level of detail it really brings into a habitat. So you can see that all looks good right there, and I'm using the mud pillar technique. If you guys want to see a pro do this technique, go check out Poison Blade's channel, but I'm just trying my best over here. So I use as much of the tropical pack and the Oceania pack as I can, because they're just really beautiful pieces that we got in here. Really upset that the Eurasian Animal Pack is not a scenery pack, because I feel like the scenery as of late has been top notch. I feel like the scenery just gets better and better with each update. But hey, it just means that the next pack will be a scenery pack, hopefully. I really do hope. But you can see my little idea right there was with the bubbles right there. So I was like, I wonder what we can do with these pieces over here. So I'm like, okay, these make out for a great size right here. Unfortunately, the flexi color channels for the bubbles always reset. So the cinematics and like some of the other shots that you'll see on like the Reddit and stuff like that don't really line up with what's actually in the game. So that's a little bit of a shame right there. I almost put lava in that one. That would have been funny. But you can see I'm adding these little window pieces in here because they make for a really good water texture. So I'm adding that in there. We can imply that there's like frogs or lizards in all of these habitats. These would typically be like, you know, Australian animals that you would find in like relatively tropical or semi-tropical environments. And I really love decorating them in here. Really fun to be able to finally use tiny pieces to create little tiny terrariums in here. I really do like that. I try to combine as much little terrarium knowledge as I could. So I'm using a whole wide variety of pieces in here, whether they're the tetrastigma vines, the banana leaf plants, or even the rafflesalia. Really awesome way of, you know, getting a whole bunch of little detail in such a tiny little habitat box. Really awesome stuff right there. I don't know, it was just such a delight to make these little things. Even though we don't have any animals that could really fit in here, it really is just so rewarding to pop in here and get a little bit of habitat work done. And what I really love in here was this palm tree centerpiece. I forget what it's actually called. I forget the name of that palm. Nikau, I think it was. really awesome centerpiece in there because it has so much detail and it just feels so tropical. Really do love the look of that in there. And what I also do in here is just add a whole bunch of more kind of like decoration. So I'm adding some vines, I'm adding some like these shrubs in here just to help the area feel a little bit more plasticky. I know that sounds kind of bad to say, but when that was kind of the effect that I got off of the platypus habitat at the San Diego Zoo, is that it felt kind of plasticky, but like in the best way possible. You know what I mean? I bet you guys do. Adding some stalactite pieces in here just because they're just very good looking, and adding some more decoration on the exterior of the habitat walls. As I always say, the exterior of the habitat is just as important as the interior. Making sure that your builds are grounded within the reality that is Planet Zoo really helps your habitat stand out. I swear, it takes a habitat from a 5 to an 8. Or in this case, it takes it from a 7 to a 10, you know? I think this is probably one of my best habitats I've ever done. Adding a whole bunch more detail in here with decals, you'll see all of it happen in the cinematics that we see right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I have not talked for this long in a while, so I'm gonna go get myself a drink. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like and even consider subscribing if you can. It really does help me and the channel out a lot. We are so close to that 20,000 subscriber goal, and if we could hit that by the end of 2023, that would be the best thing in the world. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. See you all in the next video. Take care and goodbye.